Well, I wanted it to look kind of like a math problem in a way. And it's, because it is, how many of you know what this is? Or you got any idea what that must be?
Dash, dot, dash.
That's close. What if I'd done it like this? Exactly, the Morse what? Morse code. Now what if I took the Morse code and I did this? And then I said, that's a word. All I did is put vowel points between the dots and the dashes. I just put vowel points in. I said, this is a word. So I'm making a word and create a word from that. You could do that. I'm just saying you could do that. I'm not saying that it would be simple, but you could do that. You could take a code. You could put vowel points in it. A-I-O-U, E-O. 7 vowel points. And you could start a language from that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Where I'm going with that is this. Kirby said, well, it looks like a math problem. And so, in essence, you could say it is a math problem. But this particular math problem, if I did it like this, I could change the structure of this particular math problem. And so if I change the structure of this problem, this math problem, this is a yod, this is the Hebrew number 10. This is a hey, this is the Hebrew number 5. That's a vav, that's the Hebrew number 6, and that's a hey. That's the Hebrew number 5. If I did it that way, and I can and could and probably should, I could come up with this. Breath from this formula, and I could come up with lungs from this formula. Now, did you see what I did? Breath is, what is breath? It's air, isn't it?
Yes.
Is it seen? It's not seen, is it? I mean, Jesus said you can see what it does, you can see the effect of it, you can see it moving the tree, etc., but you don't necessarily see it, but is it real?
Yes.
It's real. It's used in Genesis 1 as ruach, and that word's translated for spirit. So I could say breath / spirit. And if I'm saying breath, S-P-I-R-I-T, if I said spirit, then I could say lungs and I could say body. Do you see what I'm saying? Or do you see where I'm going, or do you see what I'm doing? What I'm doing with this glip, yod, like it was a fraction with the yod on top, and hey, vav, hey, is this. If I were to learn the value of these letter number glyphs, then I could realize this formula is the formula to build body. Okay? Then if I were to take this formula, Aleph Lamid, Hey, Yod Mem, I took this formula, I could use this formula to say, okay, that's the ethereal, or that's the spirit, or that's the breath, or that represents the unseen. And it's from the unseen that everything that seems to be seen, the natural, the body, comes from. And then if I were to say, okay, all of those things are, I guess could I use the word plausible? All of these things are plausible. If I said, okay, this is the word that's translated for God, and this is the word or glyph that's translated for Lord. Now, when I keep reducing these down, I keep losing value. I keep losing aspects of them. Because now that I've got it down to where I say God and I say Lord, because we think in a picture from the sound of a word. You follow what I'm just saying? We think in a picture from the sound of a word. The sound of this word, Lord. When I say Lord, what kind of a picture or what kind of a thought do you have in your mind? What comes up? If you are in Christianity, traditional Christianity, probably, when I said Lord, you probably thought of who?
Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah. Jehovah. That's probably what you thought of. Even though, when I started out up here, it had nothing to do with that. It had nothing to do with the personality. But when I started out with it looking like a problem or formula, a math problem or a formula or a fraction, then that's what it looked like. And if I understood the values of these fractions in this formula, then I wouldn't necessarily associate this Hebrew glyph, Yod He Vav He, with the English word Lord. I wouldn't. Why? I would know better. Or if I did associate it with the word Lord, I would have a better understanding of what I'm talking about when I say Lord. Okay? And the same would be true over here with this Elohim. Elohim. Of course, that word is translated God 32 times in Genesis 1. This word, or glyph, is not even found in Genesis 1. It doesn't appear until Genesis 2. After the seventh yom. Now, I wanted to read something that I wrote, and I just want to dialogue, and if you want to jump in or ask or comment or something, that would be wonderful with me. But I want you to hear some things that I wrote down here. I said, what is at the heart of all humanity is the art of living. Selah. I just kind of pause and let you think. At the heart of all of humanity, even when you're little, all you want to do is just live. And when I'm talking about living, I'm talking about you want to enjoy being. Is that pretty much correct?
Yes.
You just want to enjoy being. Ever how that's fleshed out in my mind or your mind when you're little. As you grow older, the fleshing out of that idea of living takes on different things. Right? Okay. So what is at the heart of all of humanity is the art of living. Yet, for the masses, most people only exist. Is there a difference between living and existing?
Yes.
Oh, big difference. Huge difference. Huge difference. Because I could put a lot of synonyms under living that you would partially carry over under existing. And the majority of people in the world exist and call it a life and don't like it. They don't. But they get up every day and do it. Every day they get up and go through the same routine. Go through the same motions, the same things. Now listen, what is at the heart of all of humanity is the art of living. Yet for the masses, most only exist. Existence and living are two entirely different things. Now, I can take this and I can put over here under this. Exist, E-N-C-E. I think that's close.
A-N-C-E.
A? Existence. And I can put over here on this, L-I-V-I-N-G, living. Under God, I'm living. Under the physical body, I'm existing. And the reason I'm putting it this way, I skipped over Lord. Okay? Because people, oh, Jesus. No, because if I can understand the story of Jesus, I can understand the story of Jesus is the story of my body in existence, but learning how to live. It's like Jesus says, I can be in the world, but I don't have to be of the world. Okay? And so what happens to us, what's happened to humanity, what's happened to the mass of the population over the last 1700 years is we got confused because of religion. Religion told us that this existing, the Lord, was living. And so what did we do? We committed ourselves to a church or a religious system, and the word religion comes from the Latin. It means to bind you up or to tie you up. Now, I think that the original idea and how they sold the idea of religion was to say we're going to bind you back to God and tie you back to your source. But you're bound there and tied there. So the bottom line of religion is to bind you up. And that's exactly what it does. And someone asked me, said something, said, you're a very religious person. I said, no. Oh, hell no. No, because I don't associate truth and spirituality with religion at all. At all. I associate religion with politics. I associate religion with bondage. I associate religion with the things I don't want to do. And that's why people don't like to go to church and only go when they think that they are in trouble. Don't people? A lot of people go when they're in trouble, or they go a couple of times a year, Easter, Christmas, or addictions, or whatever. Obligation. So let me read this again. And I'm saying this is at the heart of everybody. So I'm saying that this is at the heart of a child, a very young child. I'm 3, 4, 5, 6. They want to live, and they're doing a good job of it until they begin to listen to us, and then we begin to change their mind and twist them back around so that we can put them in existence, in the bondage to the body, and we get stuck there.
It's like a life of reaction.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is at the heart of all of humanity is the art of living. Their heart wants that. Everybody wants that. How many people do you know? Nobody has to raise a hand. How many do you people you know have addictions that keep them over here in body existence mode? Everybody. Everybody. Addictions are habits that either bind you or serve you. I want you to really, because it's a fine line. Addictions are habits that will bind you, or because you see, you and I have addictions that really serve us in a beautiful way. Where other people have addictions and we do too, that don't serve us so well, but we enjoy them. So everybody does, okay? The masses, mostly the masses only exist. They're stuck over here under existence. Existence and living are two entirely different things. When one learns how to live, when I'm talking about living, I'm talking about freedom. I'm talking about peace. So when I'm talking about living, I'm coming over here under the idea of breath with God, with freedom, etc. However, I want to say some things that are going to throw a curve. Many times the only way to truly live is to put yourself under the guise of certain laws and regulations. Yet when you get stuck under the rules and regulations of law, you can throw yourself right back under existence and bondage. It's a real fine line, and yet it's not. And I have for years and years tried to clarify the fine line. And I have friends and I have people, lots of people that I know that have heard me preach a message that I call a message of freedom, and yet they go right back over under the bondages because they don't understand how to walk the fine line. And yet, the Hebrew Scriptures show it very clearly that this line can actually be called a path. And the word path in the Hebrew, like palah, that's the root for the word path that I'm going to use, is not the same word that's used mostly in the Hebrew Scriptures, another Hebrew word that means a well-trodden road. Did you hear that? A well-trodden, a road that everybody walks on. That's over here under existence. Most everybody's on that one. Most everybody. There are not a lot of people that find, because you see the one I'm talking about, the palah, the one that really is a path, is one that only you and no one else can walk, and you only and no one else but you can exercise and discipline yourself in that path. And when you do, as you do, there you really find freedom. I hope y'all can hear that. Because many times, freedom comes when you submit yourself to higher disciplines that initiate and empower that freedom. If you can't and you don't initiate yourself, and when I'm talking about initiate yourself under laws or under regulations or rules, I'm talking about disciplines. I'm talking about the things that you do on this path. I'm talking about meditating. I'm talking about a well-regulated regimen of meditation or prayer or study or. Can you understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yet I'm talking about something that's not over here in bondage where it brings me back under existence. You understand? It's a real fine line, isn't it? Well, can I or can I? The answer is yes. Can I do this? Yes. Should I not do this? Yes. It's not. It seems complicated, but it's really not. It's really not. We want to have all of the beauties of living, because when I'm talking about living, here's some things I put under living. I put freedom. I put peace. I put health. Do you realize health doesn't fall on you like a ripe apple falls off a tree? Do you realize that health is something that you have to discipline yourself to acquire and to keep and to maintain? And if you don't do it, no one else can do it for you. You understand what I'm saying? I cannot do the ethical things for you, but I can only do them for me. I can only discipline myself to get up at 6 o'clock and meditate and study and be at work at 8 o'clock. I can't do that for you. If all I can tell you, those are the disciplines and the regimens that bring me freedom and bring me pleasure and bring me all of the things that have to do with abundance, but you can't live my freedom. Only you can live yours.
And that same pattern may not work for me or for someone else.
Exactly. There is no rule or regulation, but you cannot think, I'm just going to think freedom and I'm going to lay around on my lazy ass all day long and just think it's going to fall on me like a rock. It will not happen. Period. Period. You can't. You can't find a better illustration than the disciplines of the things that we put in our body temple. If all I put in my body temple is alcohol and beer, and God, I love them all, but if that's all I put in my body temple and I never put water, the most important thing that my body temple needs, longs, and desires, if I don't discipline myself to put that in it, I can actually drown the thing and kill it and put it under a bondage of existence and become an alcoholic. Now, I'm not saying anything negative or bad about anybody that's an alcoholic. I'm saying that most of these things come about because we don't understand the difference between, and that song that you just played,
Oh, absolutely.
that song about breath
In our lungs.
and lungs. If you can hear the contrast to that, everything in the physical, natural world is in this contrast, but in the contrast, it's designed to marry the two so that it becomes one, and the marrying of the two to be one is not done outside the realm of disciplines.
And conversely, you were talking about, you can become so rule-bound, I'm going to drink my water, I'm only going to do this, and it's absolutely a crime for me to have a beer, and you're still back over.
See, you're exactly.
You
you
can make
have
rules
to-
about the right thing and put yourself back in bondage.
You know what I'm saying, what I'm trying to hammer at so hard is this word Lord, L-O-R-D, and this word God, G-O-D, together aren't mentioned until you get to Genesis 2:4. And bingo, there they are. What happens is over here under God, Spirit, in Genesis 1 up to 2:4, you have from this unseen power, that's what this right here, this would equal power, and then this would equal power merged with feminine, masculine matter. This is feminine, this is masculine, this is water, matter. And so when you take this spirit and you, in a formula, you put that together and you call it God and you think it's an old gray-headed man, you completely lost the formula. You completely lost the thing that it was trying to convey, the very thing that it's saying to us. We lost it. And yet we read it all the time in this marvelous, wonderful book that I have cursively written all over it. Just imagine, in 20 years from now, they'll pick up my Bible. 30 years from now, my great-grandchildren, my great-great-grandchildren will pick this up and they'll say, wow, Papa, our great-great-great-Papa, he wrote in a language I don't understand. Because he can't even read my cursive writing. You see what I'm saying? Well, religion did that to us 1,700 years ago with this beautiful book.
If you look at the board, it makes half cursive,
Speak it out loud.
Please, everybody.
half. You even write in half cursive, half print there on the board.
Oh, I know. I do that. Cursive and print, yeah. I do that.
That's you trying to please everybody.
You know, and that is so true. That is so true because I don't want to offend people. And doggone it, I can't hardly say anything without I offend people. I had a couple in the shop this week. Again, Tony's listening to a CD of mine, and Tony's working on their car, and they're listening. Who is that guy? And Tony said, well, that's Lynn. That's him out there under the hood of that car. And they said, well, I have never heard anybody like that. You know, I've grown up my whole life in a religious system, under this existence, under this bondage, but I ain't never heard that. So they come out and they begin to talk to me. They said, can I get one of those CDs? I said, yeah, I just went in and got them 6 CDs and took it to them. And I gave it to them. I said, here, take them. I said, that's very controversial. I'll be the first to admit it. See, I'm not wanting to offend. There you go. Look here. Body, lung. Oh, that's almost cursive. That should have been cursive.
That word itself was half and half.
I don't want to make them mad. And so I told him up front, look, it might offend you. I don't want to make you mad. But, you know, listen to it at your own risk. So he took them, and him and his family or wife, or I don't know who all, him and a friend, listened to it and come back the next day. He said, would you come over or would you meet and sit down with us? We're just going to listen to some of these others and write questions and answer. I said, I'll be glad to do that. It's not a problem. I'll be glad to answer your question if I can.
How about was that 10 the same as the masculine, or are those different symbols?
Say that again, Austin.
Is the 10 on top the same as that masculine sign?
Okay, here is, let me show you something. Here is where numeric value here is 1. Numeric value here is 10. The value of the Hebrew aleph represents the value, it's the first glyph to represent the value of the unseen, of the infinite, of the timeless, of the eternal. That which is eternal, that which is timeless, that which is infinite. That's what this number 1 glyph represents. Yet when you bring this finite, this timeless, you bring it into this arena called time, then you get the 10. And so it represents the spirit. This represents spirit and matter. This represents male and female. This represents man and woman. So when you get to the 10, see in Hebrew, you count 1 through 9, then you count 10 through 90, then you count 100 through 900. Now that's the way you count in Hebrew. You don't go from 9, 10 to 11. You don't. You go 10 plus 1. To 12, you don't. It goes 10 plus 2. Did you follow what I'm saying? So there is no 13 or 14 in Hebrew at all. There is no 111. It doesn't exist. And so this is God. This 1 represents God that came from timeless, from infinity, from eternity. This represents God who has reduced itself into duality, into existence and living. So when I get to the 10 now, I'm dealing with duality because all of the Hebrew glyphs, 10 through 90, are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. They're dual. Then when I get to 100, this represents God who's come to here, and then 100 and all of the other 200, 300, they represent the duality that's merged itself back to 1 and come back to here. These are called cosmic numbers. 100, 200. See, like if I were to talk about the spirit, ruach, rash, that's a 200 value. So I've taken duality now, and I've taken it back to its infinite value. So that even though it's in me, the breath is now in me. The breath in me is divine. I can live by it, and I can live in harmony with it, or I can take advantage of it. I can do that by smoking or all kinds of crazy things that I can do.
So you're saying at first, we're number 1 there.
God, yeah.
And then when you go down to 10, that is this right here.
That's all right. That's the body. This is the body senses / spirit soul.
Okay, and then
See, this would be spirit soul. This would represent body senses.
Okay, and then when you get to the 100, it's where that spirit has left this body.
No, it's still manifest. But now I've united it. Now I'm one. Now I'm walking the way I'm designed to walk when I'm getting into this phase. Now I'm walking by the Spirit. Now I'm energized by the
It's
fire.
no longer split.
Okay. Not
Would that be a correct analysis, Lynn?
I'm sorry, say
You're
that.
taking that heart chakra that we always talk about, the split. There's no longer a split. It's one.
Perfect.
It is your
Become
man become whole. There is no longer that light there, which is where.
Perfect. That's it.
Okay,
That's it. So there, on the stick man, here's what you got. The above represents the number 1. The below represents the 0. And now they're together and they're living. That's why most people live under existence, because they're divided. They're a house divided. That's what I'm talking about. A house divided is a house that doesn't have any disciplines in it. A house divided is a house that's not sure Maybe I'm gonna make it, maybe I'm not. Maybe I get to the end of this life and I'll burn forever and ever 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 and never get done. That'd be a hell of a note, cook forever and not get done.
So, Paul, does that mean that their math problems are not only numbers but letters?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. This is algebra, gematria to the 10th degree.
So, if you wanted to do 111, it'd be 100 plus 10 plus 1.
Yes, exactly. That's the only way you can do it.
But with letters.
Even when you read the King James Bible, I'll give you an example of what you just said from the King James Bible, and they did this correctly. I'm glad they did this. Let's see if I can find this passage of Scripture. But it gives a really good illustration of what you're saying. Oh, well. Oh, man, I know it's right here. I can't find it in here. But let me give you 100. This is a formula. It's in Hebrew. It's in the book of Revelation. 100 and let's see, 100 and then 40 and 4,000. How many of you ever heard of that number?
Yeah.
140 and 4,000. Have you ever heard of that number?
If you're
144,000.
Some of the groups, yeah.
Jehovah's Witness built their whole denomination off that number, 144,000. It's not 144,000. That is not how it's written in the King James Bible, which is accurate according to Hebrew and Greek. It's written that way. 100 represents divine grace. 40 represents material or temporality. 44 represents the earth. That's what these glyphs are. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lord, Yod-He, Vav-He represents the earth. Carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. So what's happened is you have by divine grace been deposited in physical matter so that you can live in the earth realm. That's 144,000. Who are they? They're all the people on the face of the earth. It's only by the grace of God that you have been deposited in physical matter so that you can live on this globe we call the earth. The four. If you can understand that when you're reading these glyphs and are these mathematical formulas, then you begin to take a whole different picture and you can understand how to live life instead of just being in existence.
You ever hear about that poem they had? They found, I think it was Sanskrit or some ancient language, and it was some kind of love poem. But when they translated it from the words into the numerical value, it was the golden ratio. So not only was it a
love story, a love poem.
Yeah, but it was also like a perfect
It was
formula.
also the formula for the golden ratio. That's the formula for a physical body or for anything material.
Well, that's like the Bible. The Bible, those stories, as stories, if you understand them, have a relevance. But the depth is the code that your papa's unleashing for all of us. The stories themselves have a relevance, just like the love poem. But then you've got the code that's even deeper.
This is Carlos Sars, the Cipher of Genesis. And I'm the first to admit it's a difficult read. I've had people use this, quote it a lot. I've had people buy it and say, oh, I can't even read that. I said, I do understand. It's a difficult read. It's as hard, if not harder, to read Sars as it is Kuhn. Both of them are hard to read until you... I remember when I first started reading Sars, Sars had said you need to memorize the Hebrew alphabet, the Hebrew code. Man, how can a guy my age do that? But I did, and so that helped me, and so I began to understand what he was saying when he said it. But without that, I wouldn't understand it because of of the language. I want to read you this from SARS. He says, the human psyche. Now, I'll pause just a second and I'll say this. Matter of fact, if you will, just open your Bible with me to Genesis chapter 2. I'm almost reluctant to tell everybody where to turn, so the best thing you can do whenever we start is just open your Bible to Genesis 1, 2, or 3, because that's where we're going to wind up going. You know? And one of the reasons I say that is the foundation for everything. And so if the foundation of the house is not laid right, the whole house, what it's standing on, is shaky ground. And that's the problem we have faced. Or that is a problem, or maybe problem is not even a good word. It's really not a problem, it's an opportunity. What is it? It's an opportunity for me to become more of me so that I can really learn to live my life instead of my life living me. So, let me read this to you. Well, let me read you this here. Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. It says, and the Lord God, here we go, Lord God, this is existence, physical body. Lord, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. God, this is eternality, timeless, in time. Okay, and it says, verse 7, and the Lord God formed man of the light particles. The word dust should be light particles. It should be translated light particles, and it's a far. Alif, Fe, Rash. You remember I told you the rash? The rash, what this number 2 glip rash is 200. And this actually is called fire. Represents fire. Why? Because the rash represents light. And so when you read the Hebrew word afar, alif, fe, rash, then you can begin to understand that it's not talking about mud or dirt. Other than the mud or the dirt are particles of light. So the song is correct about we must find our way back to the garden, because it's there is where we lost our way in the path. And we begin to walk the path that's most trodden because the masses go that way. And it's easy. It's easier. It don't get you anywhere other than the same place that they all went. But for you to find your own path, and then you to walk that path and be true to that path, is for you to become the God you that you are. The one that you are built and designed to be. The ineffable, the marvelous, the powerful creator God made you to be. And that's you know, that's my heartbeat. My heartbeat is not just that for me. Oh yeah, I want that for me more than any and everything. I want it for the universe, so that people can overcome their weaknesses, their sicknesses, their failures. I was talking to a gentleman at shop yesterday, and he was telling me about the 100 Club. The 100 Club is a group of people who are alive on the earth today. And they're men who are 100 years old, and they cannot play this game until they reach 100. And in this game, they play on the side of a mountain where they have these furrows cut, where they plant their gardens, and they play with this ball like a kickball, and they move from one furrow to the next furrow in that mountain, which probably most 16-year-old kids would get wore out to try to do that, but you have to be 100-year-old to play this game. Of course, this is an Oriental group of people, probably Himalayan mountain men. And they interviewed one man who's 96 years old, and he's training for the 100-year-old club. And he said, well, today I can't go out and train, and I can't go out and prepare because I'm going to my mother's birthday party. And they thought that was a joke. He said, no, my mother is 119. Now, are we living to the potential that we have been given to live? No. Why? We lack the disciplines. We're lazy. Did I say that? Yes. I didn't really mean that. I'm just teasing.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
If he didn't, I do.
We are too damn lazy. All of this comes, I'm sorry to say, or maybe I'm glad to say, it comes by discipline and hard work.
You have to.
I would have to say the Apostle Paul was correct when he said, work out your salvation. The word salvation just simply means wholeness, prosperity, health, beauty, all of the things that you long for so that you can live life. Because that's what we want to do, right? But we want to live life over here just existing. Wow, I don't want to do it today. I'm too tired.
But we buy into the crap that is fed us that we can't.
Yeah.
So why try? Why should I put that effort in? Because it ain't gonna make a difference.
It does.
And that's what we're fed from day one.
It does make a difference, don't it?
Huge.
Yeah. I have no question in my mind, I have no doubts in my mind that you are a special group of people, period. Why? To entertain this, to consistently feed at this kind of a trough. I know that, and all the people that's on our monthly CD that goes all over the country, that I know that there is a special group of people there, but I do know that we are grabbing and grasping and grappling to get these truths, to live them out in our own life so that we can be a witness, an example to the divine in the earth. And I know we're doing that. And I'm not trying to discredit the people who's over there in existence and singing songs like that in the worldly natural arena. You know, I think that's great.
We were all there once. I was there.
Yeah. Well, let me show you something. I'm trying to get over this hump right here. Something I wanted to say about the two. The two must become one. You do that by tearing out the middle wall of partition. By doing away with the division in your heart. By doing away with the idea that maybe God is separate from me. By doing away with the concept and the idea that me and God are not one. I have to get rid of that. I have to realize that as God is, I am. And that's hard. As God is all powerful, I am. Look at this passage, verse 7, Genesis 2:7. The Lord God formed man of the light particles of the ground. The word ground is the Hebrew word Adamah. And the word Adamah, you can actually hear the word Adam in that. Adam. Adamah just simply means the miracle substance. The miracle substance, this is a part of it. The formula of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is a part of that miracle substance. But anyway, of the ground, and breathed, here we go, breath, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and he became a living soul. He breathed neshama into his nafesh. He breathed neshama into his nafesh, so that he could be erect and become nachesh. I said three different Hebrew words. Three different Hebrew words right here. Breathed into his breath. Breath is neshama. Neshama. The man became a living soul. Soul is nafesh. Nachesh is translated serpent, but Nachesh is where I have taken the above and the below, and by the energy of the divine, through the Kundalini, so to speak, or that's called the serpent on the pole. What that really is the energizing of the psyche. That keeps you in existence, but can bring you into true living. Okay? Now listen to this. That's what I wanted to say all that, because there's three different Hebrew words that I just used. And they're used right here within 12 or 15 verses of each other. And many times we don't know them, we don't use them, we're not familiar with them because we read this English translation. You know, those Hebrew words, neshama, nafesh, and nachesh. Serpent, soul, breath. Serpent, soul, and breath. The serpent here, the breath here, the soul brings both of them together. Now listen to what Carlos Sarr says. He says the human psyche, that's the soul. That's one, you remember, one of the Greek words for soul. What is the Greek word for soul? Does anybody know? Suki? Suki? Suki. The human psyche is enclosed within itself, much as if it were a chrysalis enclosed within its self-spun cocoon. Or again, human consciousness encased in the ego is similar to a traveler who has taken shelter from an imminent danger in a securely locked cabin. I'll try to read this and break it down for you. It really is an outstanding point that he makes right here. He says, in the midst of the surrounding human and cosmic violence, the voice of initiates, those who have perceived the essentials, describe the interplay of existence and of the non-temporal, but the projections of the archetypes here involve Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, and so forth. Those are just archetypes, he says. Strike the protective shell of the psyche and cause reactions that distort it and are often the very opposite of what the archetypes represented. The psyche enclosed in their cells of refuge perceive in the message of the archetypes nothing but the voice of the big bad wolf, who they think is trying to demolish their dwelling, their bait, their temple. As, in fact, he is. Though with motives they cannot evaluate. Did you? You probably didn't get it, did you? What he's saying is these archetypes, Adam, Eve, Cain, Seth, Abel, etc. These archetypes are there to describe this energy that's wanting to break out of its shell of bondage. In other words, the psyche, it's enclosed, and it gets caught living under existence. It just gets caught living there. Because it's easy to keep you in the trap than it is for you to free yourself from the trap. While all the time these archetypes that you read about in Genesis 1, 2, and 3, these different characters are trying to break that shell or that cocoon so that you can actually step out and be who you are designed to be. The real man, woman of God that God has designed and empowered you to be. Okay, let me read this and I'll quit. I'll just quit right here. He said, but these archetypes, personifying as they do the cosmic interplay of energy and mass, notice this, energy, this would be God, mass, this is physical existence, energy would be Elohim, mass would be Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, or Jehovah. They personify the cosmic interplay of energy and mass. Inner as well as outer, are the framework upon which our psyche builds itself. The archetype of Adam, which is the fixed or static, and Eve, which is the dynamic or motion, are in us prior even to the formation of the psyche. Whatever their names, they exist in every human being. In some parts of the world, they may even be called Vishnu and Shiva, or Yin and Yang, or otherwise. Since the constant reaction of the psyche is that of self-protection, You just, just lay there for a little longer. It'd be all right. You don't have to get up. Since the constant reaction of the psyche is that of self-protection, these archetypes are perceived as being positive when actually they're negative. Static when in fact they are dynamic. Though we may glimpse traces of reality within the essence of our nature, we cannot fathom the essence as long as in the interplay between life and existence we identify ourselves with existence, duration, and are a past which we project into the future.
Can I read a poem, Lynn?
Yes, go ahead.
This was by Robert Frost, and it just really jumped with you talking about existence and life. It's called The Road Not Taken. See if I can find it. I was just looking at it. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler along I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then I took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference.
That's from the book, probably The Road Less Traveled.
Well, actually, this is Robert Frost's poem that inspired the book.
That inspired the book, The Road
This
Less
is a poem he wrote called The Road Not Taken. And I just, with what you were saying, the one less traveled, they look the same, but the one where you're willing to step into the disciplines, there's where the difference was made. They look, he says in the poem, they look the same. I'd love to have taken both, but I took the one less traveled.
This song has come to me because of what you're saying, that I mean, that's much more involved in everything, but we must go on, we've made our choice, the vision is made clear, we have to live today, tomorrow is not here, we must face reality in every step we take, tomorrow may never come, and yesterday is too late, so give up your vision if you must, if you cannot walk out today. For what is a vision that makes you stumble in your step today? There is a time for everything, there is a time for all. But let me make this very clear, your happiness is here. Today we rise and will not fall, tomorrow is not here. So let's live today, let's be that choice, let's walk in what is here. Rejoice and sing, it's heaven now, this is a glad new year. Be faithful in each step you take. That is salvation, loud and clear.
That is so good. That is so good. My goodness. And you wrote that 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I was in there watching you write that, and I just preached that from Beautiful, Beverly. Wow. All right. Anything else?
Thank you.
Not for a moment.
So Papa, that 200 is fire, and which one on the top right is fire? Would you call it rash?
Say that one more time, Austin.
Straight ahead, 200, you said rash, I think? Or
The rash, yeah.
that's 200, and then at the top, so those are the 4 elements too? So is one of those also fire?
No.
Just,
Those, you go, you talking about this right here?
which one's nitrogen?
Nitrogen is the base element of the earth. So I would say that I would take the gold to represent nitrogen.
And
It's the
also,
base element of the earth,
but not fire?
but it's not, no, it's not fire. The rash represents fire. If I were to say that nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon, I said carbon, this would be nitrogen and hydrogen. Water is what, H2O? Hydrogen and oxygen? These would represent hydrogen and oxygen. The yod and the wav would represent carbon and nitrogen, but not fire. Fire would come under, if you look at the cross, put the cross, you would have the four elements: fire, air, water, and earth.
Are they all cosmic, or is fire the only cosmic one? Because 200 is a cosmic number, right?
Yeah, 200 is a cosmic number, and it represents fire.
What
But
about-
in the cardinal cross, when you draw the cardinal cross, it represents those four different fire. Fire is the Aries. Aries, the ram.
What's water look like, or the
The
glyph?
water is the, this is the water glyph,
And what number is that?
40. You have two water glyphs, 40. This is 40, it's water. And then you have, I'm sorry, this would be,
That's why all the
I just
stories
have
are
to
40
draw it a
days,
little bit
40
different.
nights in the water.
these two glyphs are confusing unless they're drawn just exactly. That's almost exactly like an English G, right?
Very close.
Yeah.
A cursive G, which they won't even have a clue what that's like in 20 years. And then that's 40. And then this glyph has to be almost a box with a little squiggly thing, which is also water, and this is 600. So if you spell the word heaven in Hebrew, Sheen, Mem, Vav, Mem. So you have two glyphs. That's the word heaven. Sheen, Mem, Vav, Mem. That's the 40 value and the 600 value. This takes the physical, number 6 is this, the Vav, which is male, and it also represents the physical nature, the productivity. 6, male. All the, it represents the ability to procreate, to plant a seed. Then when you take that 6 to 600, you're taking it back to potential cosmic ability. So now then, it still represents the male ability to constantly reproduce. Therefore, it's given a water glyph, because all things come out of water. Water is the base. So now it's cosmic, spiritual, powerful. But it's the Hebrew word for heaven.
What's Sheen?
Sheen is 300 value. Sheen is a 300 value, and so what it represents is you have the Aleph, you have the Beth, which is number 2, and then you have the Gimiel, which is number 3. So you have God, number 1, infinite, needed a container, a house. That's what number 2, Beth, house, container. Number 1, needed a house, a container, so that it could become upright and erect. Number 3. So it can live and move and walk and have its being. So that it
So
could
you can look
be.
at that, you can look at that as being a church or a temple.
Yeah.
That third, number 3 there,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Jimea. Yeah. So that it could be deposited in the, what happens is, I all of the Hebrew glyphs, they build on each other, and the way they build on each other, they, it's progression. Once you start to see it and you learn it, it just progresses itself. You know, God, house, physical body upright. Number 4, deposited in the world. Dalit, that's the Hebrew. Dalit, the physical world. Why? So that it could, that's the Hebrew hay, number 5, feminine, so that it could constantly reproduce itself. And that's what you have right here. You have, this is feminine, reproduction, masculine, ability to produce, feminine, reproduction. And you have this masculine that's producing existence or that's producing living.
I don't think it's teaches Hebrew in school.
Why don't they?
Yeah.
Why don't they teach this in Hebrew school?
I don't know. I feel like they should teach us this growing up instead of English.
Oh, I agree with you. Totally agree with you. Yeah, they should teach this because it is living, basic living 101. Yeah, if you taught all children this, then they could make better choices. It's hard to make a good choice if you don't have the right information.
But I feel like you've been trying to understand this. It's a different way of thinking. So if you identify something like, I don't know, like when I identify something as concrete, so like if I think of, I don't know, like fire and 200, like it's just fire and it's just 200, but it's not just that, like it represents multiple things, like a multi-layer of things. And it has like implications, like that implies, fire implies that water exists, or whatever, like it's the whole spectrum of.
Yeah. Well, see, Genesis 1 talks about the waters above and the waters below and how they're to merge together. But they use the word heaven. Well, again, if we think in pictures, we hear the word Lord, we're thinking of a man. We hear the word God, we're thinking of an old man. We think of heaven, we're thinking about a planet of paradise, somewhere we'll get to go. When none of those original glyphs meant none of those things. So you're talking about screwed up. I mean, you would wonder, where's the problem? Go back to kindergarten. Back to basics. That's
Because with this, like you think differently by, like if someone's thinking like in Hebrew thoughts, their thoughts are going to be different because it's a different format. But if someone's thinking English thoughts, even if they're both spiritual people, they're set up differently.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If you think like this in Hebrew, you'll begin to think like God or source or energy would think. And how does God or source or energy think? Source, energy, God, would think in unconditional. It doesn't think in conditions. If you think English thoughts, religious thoughts, those are all based on conditions, on the conditions of the paradigms you've been taught.
And it's not to say that somebody couldn't be unconditional with the English language, but that's not how it's formatted. Or it's, I'm sure with work you could do it, make sure you don't speak a certain way, but even like a lot of what we say, it implies stuff. Or we use a lot of past, present, future in English speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm willing to bet that a lot of this stuff is present.
I'd say every bit of this deals with the now, just like Beverly saw.
Kind of like
Matter of fact, it's like this. If you're living, you have to be in the now. If you're existing, it's most likely something that did happen yesterday or something you want to happen tomorrow. So that's the difference. That's existing. It either did happen or it's going to happen. I hope it happens tomorrow.
Yeah, sometimes I just listen to like what I say and how I say it, and I'm like, well, you know, that implies a certain belief system, or that points to something I don't really believe, but I'm saying it and I'm creating it.
Yeah.
And
I had this young guy. he's in high school, goes to, he got his girlfriend, she comes to shop with him occasionally. His family trades with me. I've known him for a long time, so, you know, I talked to him pretty straight. And I asked him, he was just there, he wasn't with his little girlfriend. I asked him, I said, are you gonna marry her? And he said, no, I don't think so. And I said, well, good. I said, I hate it for her, but I said, it looks like she has a lot of baggage. He said, man, she sure does. It's just this and that and the other. I said, well, it's probably not her fault. It's probably events that have happened to her in life. He said, you're exactly right. He said, her daddy died when she was 10 or 11. And he said, she's been a wreck ever since. And I said, I figured it. I said, the problem is that most people don't know how to deal with her and talk to her. And I said, so, and she don't even know how to deal with herself. I said, so, she's what they call a drama queen. And I said, there are a lot of drama queens. I said, it's not their fault. It's events that happen to them living life. And I said, I bet you if she doesn't get psychological help, it comes right back to the shell. The shell's trying to break out and don't know how because it's in this bondage. Her psyche is wrapped up in this bondage. My daddy died, the world will take good things away from her, da-da-da-da. So, you know, pains, different things happen. It wasn't her fault, but it did happen to her. Other things happened, probably. And so she lives life, basing life, she's trying to live over here, basing life off of these things in existence. And she's locked there. And I said, I bet you anything. And I said, I'm not trying to predict this on her or anybody. I bet she'll wind up in divorce many times, multiple times. I said, one of the reasons why is no man will be able to satisfy the very thing that's inside her that only she can fix. Nobody can do it. I said, and I was just telling him this straight out. I said, because that's what happens to people. Young people confuse love many times. They may have tremendous attractions to each other, but don't know how to deal with themselves so that they can become compatible, so that they can become all that they want to be. And I said, I was telling him, I said, nobody can fix you but you, period. And this guy goes to a religious church. I mean, you know, his family is real religious, but he's a good kid, good young man. You know, I have a lot of these young guys come talk to me like I was their daddy or their grandpa because they know I'm a preacher. Or they think I'm a preacher. So they just talk to me.
You got a direct connection.
And so I just talk to them straight up. So,
Yeah, I can relate to that.
well, everybody could. I could. Everybody can. But nobody knows how to directly apply that or what to do about it. How do you go about it? Because everybody deals with the longing in your heart for partnership, compatibility. That's a normal thing over here. Comes with the body, lung existence thing. It's all a part of that body, lung existence. But not to know how to deal with, not to know how to get my own healing. If I do not know how to find the healing that I need for me, I can never be all I'm designed to be for me and society. Because I'm stuck in society, so they got to deal with me or lock me up, put me away.
Well,